Hello, my name is Dr. Ivy Branin. I'm a naturopathic doctor here in New York City, and today we're going to talk about an easy way to get some really great probiotics. Probiotics are really important for digestive health, and as a naturopath, everything I feel starts in the digestion. But some people are kind of hesitant with probiotics because they can be quite expensive, and then even fermented foods. And today we're going to actually make sauerkraut. And sauerkraut's a really easy way to get probiotics. And if you've ever gone to any of the farmers markets, you can see that a lot of the natural sauerkrauts can be quite expensive. So this is a really easy, cheap way and quick way to get some really good probiotics. So basically all we're going to be doing is we're going to be using cabbage. Cabbage is a great vegetable. It's actually on the Clean 15 list, so you actually don't necessarily have to buy organic. And also sea salt or kosher salt. Today I'm using kosher salt, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So to get started, today I'm actually going to be doing a smaller batch, so I'm actually just going to be using half of this cabbage, and I'll talk a little bit more about scale up. So first I'm going to just cut this cabbage in half. This is probably the most difficult part of making sauerkraut, just because it can be really big. And then I'm going to kind of cut out what I call the heart or the core, and you can also use this part of the cabbage for later if you want to saute that up and eat it later, but I just remove it. And then what you want to do is you want to try to cut the cabbage as in as narrow shreds as possible. One of the things too, if you're kind of strapped for time or you don't really have the attention to detail, you can buy cabbage already shredded. I know that they have it at Trader Joe's, but you really want to make sure that you get it as fine as possible so that we can really make sure that this can go into our jar, and you'll see that in a moment. Okay, so I'm just basically just chopping this up. You know, it's interesting, I think it's about maybe 2 weeks ago, I was actually at the NYAMP, that's the New York Association of Naturopathic Physicians, and one of our esteemed colleagues, Dr. Paul Littman, was talking about the microbiome, and basically that's a really important part of our being, in the sense that we are actually made up of about 11 trillion cells. And actually, of those 11 trillion cells, only 1 trillion cells are uniquely us. So basically, we have a lot of foreign bacteria that make up our body. And by getting probiotics, we're ensuring that we're getting the best, I guess, foreign cells in us as possible. Other interesting things, a lot of people don't realize that most of our serotonin is made in the gut, and so one of the important things is making sure that you're getting really good probiotics in the body. Now, this actually might be more cabbage even than we'll need, but I'll show you that in a second. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put our great shredded cabbage in this bowl. Actually, yeah, so for the most part, I'm definitely going to have a lot of leftover, and that's okay. I love cabbage, and I eat a lot of it. And basically what you want to do is you want to add about, it's about 1.5 tablespoons per 3 pounds. And so this was roughly a 3-pound cabbage, but I'm only working with about half of it. So I'm only going to be adding about 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. And then what I'm going to do is I'm basically massaging in the salt, and it's pretty interesting. So as you massage, you'll notice that liquid starts appearing to the surface, and actually you'll see also that the cabbage should get softer. It's going to start breaking down, and what's happening is basically cabbage, just like us, is made up with a lot of cells, and when cells have an environment that's very salty, the water in the cells leaches out, and basically to create a homeostasis between the two environments. So you're having a lot of cellular leaching, so it's going to cause a lot of water. And you'll even notice, I mean, I'm really just massaging, and the volume is going down quite drastically. I mean, actually probably now can actually add some of this cabbage here and start massaging some of that in. Yes, you just kind of want to work it down. You know, another thing you can also do if you don't feel like getting your hands dirty, not that my hands are really getting dirty, you can also let this sit overnight. Basically what you do is you put it in a big bowl with a plate on top and a weight. And I'll actually show you a little bit of that even when we are putting it in the mason jar, very similar thing. So yeah, we're just really working it as much as possible. You know, another thing too is I make a lot of fermented foods. My favorite food actually to make is kimchi, but sometimes I OD on the salt by accident, and you know, if that happens to you, for some reason you added too much salt, you can actually just rinse it out a few times before you actually do the fermentation process. Wow. My extensor muscles are really getting a nice good workout. Okay, so I think we're about done there. Yeah, my hands are a little bit, I'm just going to rinse my hands off before we go to the next step. So just rinsing off some of the cabbage. Oh, okay, so I'm taking a mason jar, and I always just, with all my ferments, I usually like to work in smaller batches, basically because it's just me eating it, and then it doesn't take up too much room in the refrigerator. So we're just going to fill up our mason jar with our salted cabbage. I'm really making a mess in this one, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm just really gonna, and you want to really just try to pack it down as much as possible, really getting all that cabbage in there. You know, I think one of the misconceptions, especially when it comes to sauerkraut making, is that you need to be adding water and vinegar. Well, really, the cabbage itself is producing the water. As I said before, when the cells are in this salty environment, they start leaching out their water, and then it's going to be making its own vinegar basically when it's fermenting, basically producing a lot of really great lactobacilli. Okay, this is good. Did a good job. So basically we want to get it close to the top as possible, and I'm just going to rinse my hands off again because I'm going to go to the second part. I'm just going to dry my hand as well. Okay, so we're not quite done. So the next step is I'm going to be, first I found actually some really nice biodegradable plastic wrap, and basically the reason I'm using plastic wrap is because here in New York City, as everyone knows, that there's lots of pests, and we don't want them to get very attracted to eating this sauerkraut before we get to eat it. So I'm just going to place a little bit of plastic wrap over the top. And then I'm going to take, this is basically just a kombucha bottle filled with water. It's going to act as our weight. And I'm just going to press it down. So basically what I'll do is, at this point, I'm just going to cover it up a little bit more. I would let this sit for about 2 to 3 days at room temperature. And then once it's sat for about those days, then I would remove the weight. And, where's my lid? Yeah, my lid. I would then remove the weight. You don't need the plastic wrap anymore, and I would put the lid back on and I put it in the refrigerator. I usually like my ferments, specifically sauerkraut and kimchi, to sit in the refrigerator about 2 weeks before I start eating it. It depends how fermented you like things. You can also kind of like taste it as you go along. Yeah. Anyway, I have a lot of cleaning up to do. Again, that's Dr. Ivy Branin of Simplicity Health Associates, where simple solutions to health come naturally.